Hello, everyone. I'm having to re record this session that we lost, which was recorded on the 23rd of March from Varanasi. And it was the second part of the health talks. I'm very excited to do it again because I think that it is an important section and many people are looking forward to receiving the talk which will complete this section. So let me just review quickly what we had talked about in our first part in the series of health. We had kind of looked at two theories that exist in unison, quite different to each other. However, in the West, these two theories have kind of fragmented the idea of health care into two very opposing halves. The first theory we looked at was with Antoine Béchamp, who looked at diseased tissue as attracting germs rather than being caused by it. And we also looked at completely the opposite of that theory put across by Louis Pasteur, who said that disease were caught through germs which came from the outside, and once caught, then those germs would prevail into a fully fledged disease that needed curing with some form of intervention. We also said that in the Vedic culture, if you look at the oldest tradition of whether it's Ayurveda or Siddha medicine, then we are probably most aligned with the Béchamp's theory in that a germ is not the cause of the disease, it is the proof that there is disease that needs healing. So we then talked about the philosophy for treatment in Ayurveda or Siddha medicine. We talked about treat the roots rather than the branches. If we looked at a tree of health, so we go and fix the roots and not necessarily put a sticky tape or a quick fix on the branches, which wouldn't have the opportunity to fix the roots. So treat the roots, not the branches, is the first kind of tenet, if you like, for the Vedic tradition. We also see that signs and symptoms are due to the healing attempt and should not be suppressed, such things as fever and colds and flus. The third tenet is that inflammation is just designed to create a loss of function of the area by allowing that area to become heated, red, and have some swelling and pain. Those are all signs that you just need to have a loss of function and allow the body to heal through your own immunity. The fourth tenet was that disease is caused by the failure to live by dharmic laws of nature, whether it's with deeds, thoughts, or habits. We saw that even thoughts can create a negative terrain in the body. So whether it's physical, physiological, psychological, or consciousness-led, we need to follow the dharmic laws of nature in order to live a disease-free life. We looked at pathogens as being nature's decomposers, pathogens being any microorganisms. The Vedic culture sees them in the idea of unity, consciousness, as having a purpose in life. They're seen as natural decomposers of morbid matter rather than a foe that needs destruction. The fifth tenet we looked at was that health is controlled by prana, prana being the life force. And if that prana is blocked for any reason, then the idea of disease will prevail. The sixth tenet was that an individual is responsible for their own health. Individuals not only responsible for good things that happen to them, but also bad things that happen to them. So in this idea, the idea of empowerment of the individual is built in, that you're not relying on the state or a medical profession to look after your health. And finally, we looked at the process of disease, whereby continual undharmic ways of living wouldn't, first of all, bring the wrong kind of terrain or pH balance or sattvic or rajasic or tamasic plasma, which, if continued to deteriorate, would go to the blood. And if that is allowed to continue, then the muscle groups would begin to be at disease. And if that is allowed to continue, then the bone structures will see the disease. And if that happens, then the organs will see some kind of a disturbance. And if that is allowed to continue, then we would have a systemic or a body-wide disease situation, which would become harder to treat. So the process of disease is a very important kind of idea that allows us to calibrate our own levels of disease. Now, where I left off last week was that there are 4 stages of disease. And today I wanted to specifically talk about those 4 stages so that you are able to calibrate yourself to look at exactly where you are in a cycle of health or cycle of disease. You may well be completely asymptomatic. However, you want to see, if you want to have a model which says, okay, if I ever get into disharmony with health, then how am I going to bring myself back to health? What protocol am I going to use? So, as I always do with each one of my series of talks, the second part is about calibrating your own scenario. Today, I would like to give you this tool in this idea of 4 stages of disease. So let's look at the first stage. The first stage is called acute disease. Second stage is called sub-acute disease. The third stage is chronic disease. And the fourth stage we're going to call degenerative disease, when disease has gone really so far that it may be more difficult to treat. So let's look at the first stage, acute disease. In this scenario, the prana is reasonably strong. The life force is strong. Assimilation of food and elimination of food is working well. But however, you may get the occasional cold or flu or a fever. Now, in this Vedic way of looking at colds and flus and fever, is that they are really designed to just nudge your immunity system to just have a little bit of a latest variety of the germ so that it can develop immunity for future types of viruses and pathogens that may exist. But your prana is strong and your elimination is working and you're fit. So the protocol in this instance, if you get a cold or a flu or a fever, is not to suppress it with some drugs or vaccinations or whatever. The protocol would be to cleanse the body and aid toxin removal even more, and to strengthen the prana through exercise and breathing exercises. So the protocol is very simple. Cleanse the body, meaning take in goodness, drink lots of water, do some juicing, do nidahara samyama. Aid toxin removal would be to make sure that you are maybe taking castor oil to remove your toxins. Maybe you are simply drinking more, water, removing toxins from the body or from your putting into your body, such as alcohol and non-sattvic foods, and strengthening your vital force by resting and by doing the right pranayama breathing and yoga. So that would be the protocol if you were to go to a Ayurvedic doctor in the case of an acute disease. Acute disease is very easy to turn around, actually, with Ayurvedic formula and Ayurvedic methodology, or Siddha tradition would also do the same. Now let's look at sub-acute disease, meaning it's gone a bit further into the sort of the layers of the body, as we saw in the process of disease. Maybe it's not just in the plasma and blood level, it's now going into the muscle and the bone level. Here we have lowered immunity and our prana circulation is not good. It's not as strong as it can be. And when you get to a subacute disease, it's an alarm bell that is ringing, that's saying that you are living an undharmic methods of living and you're suppressing your immunity. So you may be burning the candle at both ends, taking a lot of tamasic food, drinking alcohol, not sleeping enough, not doing exercises enough, not containing your thoughts enough, not doing enough sort of meditation, that kind of thing. And the kind of disease that prevail in this kind of subacute stage is that you may get fungal infection. Now, fungal infections are a different form of pathogens come into the body to start to decompose all the morbid matter that is coming into the system that the body is just not being able to eliminate. So what you will get is aches and pains and inflammation as this fungal infection is trying to create scenarios where it is ingesting the morbid matter. So the fungus will be ingesting or breaking down the morbid matter, which is creating the toxin in the body, and the body is not able to eliminate. And the fungus itself will have its own excretion, which will create the aches and pains and inflammation to disable the body for a while from moving. So it will have some loss of function. So this is an alarm bell that's telling you to really look at your situation a little bit more closely. And the protocol here would be a complete lifestyle change to get into more sattvic ways of living and doing more sort of intense detox like panchakarma, which would be, introduction of enemas, or, you may have to ingest some ghee, because remember, toxins only dissolve in fat. Toxins require fat to pull them out, leach them out of the body through the digestive tract. Okay, so a carbohydrate molecule is not going to help you take a toxin out of the body. You need fat, you need such things as ghee and oil, whereby the toxin can hold hands with that molecule in order to be eliminated. Now, what happens also if those toxins, and again, vegetarian lifestyle lends itself to bringing less or fewer toxins in, because it's the fat cells in the meat structure that can carry toxins such as heavy metals, or antibiotics, or anything that is non-organic will be held in a meat product more readily than it will sit in a vegetarian either pulses or vegetables. It just simply cannot be that easily held in that structure. So again, if you are taking meat in and then not detoxing the toxic material that comes in from the meat, then that's going to cause more problems. So you need panchakarma kind of treatments whereby you're given ghee to drink orally daily for however many weeks the doctor suggests. That will take the toxins that are available in the bloodstream to go into that oil, and then out into the be eliminated through the fecal matter. So that's the theory behind ingesting ghee, and then an enema of sesame oil or something would be given to you to bring in into your what can I say, the eliminatory tracts, introduce oils into your intestine, that's the word I was looking for, into your intestine, to again draw out the toxins, which can be then eliminated. Now, if this isn't allowed to happen, and let's say the heavy metals or whatever are left in the body, eventually you're going to have problems, because those heavy metals will sit in your nerve cells or your nerve sheets, which are fat molecules, and then create such things as neuralgia or pain, or disturbance in your nervous system. So it is a good idea to do panchakarma type of treatments if you have been living a very non-dharmic lifestyle, to eliminate those toxins out of your body. So the protocol is to lifestyle change, bring in less toxins through your ingestion and your thinking and your deeds, detoxing through panchakarma type of treatments. And then they would also apply lots of therapy, massage therapy using oil, because remember, the skin is the largest organ that you have. And again, that will be a place where once the oils are introduced, toxins that are sitting in your layers of skin can be drawn out as well, and eliminated through the massage process. Steam baths and other methods given to you through your Ayurvedic treatment will only aid bringing these toxins out. And an Ayurvedic medicine practitioner will also give you breathing therapy and yoga to bring you back to health. Now, in the second stage of disease, subacute disease, it's still okay and easy to turn your health around, but it, if left unattended, then it's going to move into what we call the third stage of disease, which is chronic. So this is just where, suppression of use from drugs such as, medicinal drugs or other drugs will start to take a toll, and bad living will have introduced lots of accumulation of toxins in the body, and there will begin to be structural changes happening, not only in the plasma, blood, muscle, and bone, but now it's beginning to go into the organs of the physiology. So you will see such things as diabetes or heart conditions or arthritis or early stages of cancer. And symptoms are caused by damaged tissues and lowered prana or life force. So here in the chronic stage of disease, it's going to be more difficult to draw health back into the organs, into the bone, into the muscle, into the blood, and into the plasma. We're having to do a reverse kind of process, having to detoxify deeper and deeper layers of your physiology. Now, the protocol here would be a very long-term and permanent lifestyle change. And again, you would be asked to do deeper and more prolonged detoxing protocols and yoga and pranayama. Because remember, the Vedic culture makes you responsible and empowers you. And through these lifestyle changes, you would become more powerful. And when you see a reversal of something like diabetes or heart condition, and you're able to come off your medicinal herbs or drugs, it makes you feel extremely powerful, makes you become a celebrator of life, makes you enthusiastic, makes you have desire for life. So this chronic stage of disease must be attended to, where you can reclaim your power. And if you don't, then you enter the fourth stage of disease, which is degenerative. It's basically becomes system-wide. Not only is your plasma toxified, your blood is toxified, your muscles are toxic, your bone is toxic, organs are tamasic, and now your whole system has become tamasic. There's no signs left anywhere of any sattvic parts of your body. And here you would see such things as such diseases, emphysema or spread of cancer. Now, at this stage, it becomes almost impossible to turn your body around. It's going to be a very long term, effort, whereby you would have to be totally committed to turn your life around. And my advice would be that you never ever allow yourself to get to that fourth stage of disease. and get to this sort of degenerative stage, I would suggest that you always keep yourself to the maximum acute disease, which which will come and go. You're just tweaking your immunity um, when you are in that in that stage of disease. You may be introduced to a bug, but then your immunity builds up to that pathogen, and you are evolving and always on a virtuous circle up, never spiraling down, and taking the process of disease to deeper layers, and having your stages of disease getting to level 2, level 3, and level 4. So that is how you calibrate your yourself as to where you are and what the protocol might be in the Vedic culture of looking at health. Now, there is a great revival, thank goodness, from these oldest civilizations, whether it's the Chinese civilization or Indian civilization. As the civilization and people's identity of that civilization strengthens, and they become proud of their civilization, which is old and ancient, they're reviving the healthcare systems within those civilizations. So China has a massive Chinese medicinal system whereby acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine is being brought into the forefront to celebrate that civilization's know how. And in India, too, where people are waking up to their identity and being proud of their background and reclaiming their civilization. Ayurveda and Siddha medicine as seeing a revival, a renaissance. So I have many friends in the UK who regularly go to an Ayurvedic clinic, a holiday resort in Kerala or wherever in India, once or twice a year to have treatments. And I highly recommend that you look at those protocols as a powerful, empowering ways to look at health, whereby you're not being forced to take a quick fix and then having, more and more drugs being poured down at you. Like I've seen my previous generation, they would start with a diabetes, they would be put on one drug, and then they would have, kidney failure, and from that they would move on to a heart drug or a BP drug, and before they know it, they're on a whole cocktail of drugs, and they're in this sort of suppression mode of living very adharmically, and the body just starts to deteriorate and becomes reliant on more and more and more interventions, and finally you end up in a in a home somewhere, and it's not a pretty end. So taking charge of your health is, and being responsible for it, requires some changes in thinking, which are much needed in today's society, especially when you see what's going on with COVID, and the onslaught of disease that are coming from that, the wrongly held thinking that is bringing mental health um, as a problem, and then quick fixes as a problem, and ingesting all the wrong things, never thinking of detoxifying, always watching TV and getting more and more and more spiraling down. And it's going to be a pandemic, not of just the virus, but a pandemic of wrong thinking, in my opinion. So we need to bring ourselves on a correction course very quickly. And the more people that can empower themselves with powerful thinking, the better it's going to be. Now, I said in the last session that, the Ayurvedic thinking is probably the oldest. And if you look at the Rig Veda, which is the oldest book ever, some people would attribute to 60,000 years plus type of time frame. And in there, there are 1,000 references to herbal remedies. And Atharva Veda, which is another one of the four Vedas, it basically contains all the Ayurvedic methodology. So Tamil Nadu was really the place where, it was probably practiced most, along with Kerala. This is where this tradition got to be preserved, especially because of a saint called Agastya, who was very much, the preserver of this tradition and also a teacher of this tradition. So in Ayurveda, or in this tradition, I should say, the Agastya tradition of looking at disease, there is such a thing as, and again, this is something that will be totally new to many people, but if you go in the south, as I have done, to look at what's known as Nadi Leaves. Now, what are Nadi Leaves? These are techniques to give you remedies for your mental and physical health, psychological health, and your health, for your wealth, and in every sense, your relationship. It's a kind of an all-encompassing methodology to bring you to health at every level. Now, Nadi leaves are palm leaves that have writing on them, which is written in a language very close to Tamil, but it's not Tamil. So you need special readers who can read these leaves. These leaves have been preserved for centuries. People say that it was brought by Murugan, Shiva's son, but also Agastya revived this tradition. And during the invasion, a lot of these Nadi leaves were lost, but there are still many preserved. Now, what are Nadi leaves? A lot of people say that they were when Parvati was asking Shiva, what will my children do when they come to Kali Yuga and they are really torn and they're at diseased state? How will I be able to offer them help in some way? Remember, Shiva and Parvati could see past, present, and future because they're timeless. They could see every one of us and our states as we will incur them as we go through the passage of time. So these Nadi leaves were written, one leaf per each individual that was going to be on the earth plane, and what they will see as potential problems in their life and what the remedies may be. Now, this seems like a really far-fetched idea, but being a sort of an open person, I took myself to one of these Nadi readers many years ago, and I've done it 3 times in my life. And what happens is that the person who can read the leaves will ask you something like 10 questions, and after answering those questions, they will, like in a computer level precision, bring the right leaf out for you, and it will be your leaf. out of millions of leaves. So you can imagine the science of it is kind of mind blowing. But my leaf said everything about me, i.e., that I would be married twice, I would have a father called X, a mother called X, I would have a brother and a sister, I would have a sister who passes away, I would be married twice, I would be traveling around the world, etc. And it then also says what remedies I should do in order to keep myself at bay from any problems that may turn up health wise, wealth wise, relationship wise, or any otherwise. You are then taken to various temples, which are power spots, depending on what that leaf said. And for me, I had to go to the Sun Temple, I had to go to the Vaiteshwaram temple in Tamil Nadu, which is where Shiva is worshipped as god of healing. And I had to go to a number of the 9 planet temples and do certain remedies. Now, for me, this was a real unblocker, a sort of a real. I didn't initially have any faith in it. But as time progressed, and after having done the remedies, which took me 2 weeks actually, I had to be escorted to various temples and do rituals. It could be a puja, it could be an archana, it could be reciting of mantras, it could be ingesting certain herbs. There was a number of things I had to do. But I did feel such a relief at the end of it that, you know, it was palpable. I came back feeling as if something had changed dramatically, and it was real. So it was a real experience for me, and I wouldn't overlook this. It's such a deep science. Not only are you being taken to power spots, but then you're also being asked to take certain gems, wear certain gems. They would be touching certain parts of your body because each one of the 9 planets emit certain light, which through a gem will have an effect on your body. The science is so deep. Now, I remember when Princess Diana was alive, she used to go to an Ayurvedic practitioner in the UK. And, you know, I used to hear some stories through the grapevine that she would take certain, she would wear certain rings, etc., certain gemstones. And I was kind of intrigued at that time, but I didn't take it very seriously. But a lot of the people in the know and, you know, and aristocrats and so on, they take all of this science, this Vedic science, very seriously. And although it's not known to most individuals, they consult these techniques for making their decisions, helping them make their decisions. So remember, with health, it's karma out and dharma in. That is the core kind of philosophy of the Vedic tradition. And karma out, you continuously doing that. And I suggest you continuously, do techniques to remove your karma, to really understand what karma means, first of all. Um, because it's ambiguous. Really understand what karma is and try and then detox your karma by doing the right thinking and the right rituals. That's one of the suggestions. And dharma, so karma out and dharma in. Dharma meaning, you may go to the Lord of health, as I see it, is Vaideshwar. Vaid meaning the doctor, and Ishwar is God. Vaideshwar is like Dhanvantri, which is a god that was brought out of the sea of all potential during the churning of the ocean, and he came out with a pot of herbs and is seen as a Vishnu avatar of a sense because he's a maintainer of health. He's worshipped for health. So if you're looking for bringing your body back to health, then I suggest Dhanvantri is one deity of choice. The second deity is Vaideshwar, which is Shiva in the form of god of healing, um, typically found in the south of India in terms of a power spot. And I would also look at Agastya, the Saint Agastya, and worship him, and Murugan, which is deity of choice, son of Shiva, who basically took birth to remove negativity. Now, whether that's inner negativity of an individual or a cosmic negativity of, demons, he is the god of choice, and he comes with a veil. It's a sphere-shaped object, or a weapon that during the times with Dr. Pillai, when I met Dr. Pillai, I actually came to Dr. Pillai. I started my spiritual journey. I was feeling a lot of pain in my pancreatic region, and it was quite a, it went on for many months, and I do not I'm not the kind of person who would veer towards allopathic medicine as number one kind of choice. I would try everything first, and then if that failed, then I would go to a doctor. But I didn't. I was doing yoga at that time, and I decided that I would do Ayurveda, try that to see if I can, get some relief from this pancreatic pain. And I was sitting in the reception of this Ayurvedic clinic in West London, and saw the book, which said sounds from the other side, and was Dr. Pillai's book, and it was the most weird looking book, but anyhow I picked it up, and I asked the receptionist to actually borrow it. I was so drawn to it, and I followed the mantras suggested in that book for health and bringing myself to health. And I remember I followed the Ayurvedic procedure, which was, I think, my first time, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was my first Ayurvedic treatment, which was a 2-week long Panchakarma treatment. But along with that, I also did Dr. Pillai's suggestions of mantras on Murugan. And I was totally, I came back to health after having experienced maybe a year-long pain in my pancreas, which, was just not shifting. So you could say it was Ayurveda, or you could say it was the mantras, or you could say it was the both. But for me, there was no doubt that, I was being drawn to Dr. Pillai as my guru, and then went on to a lot of programs to do karma removal and wealth manifestation. And he got me into the deities and power spots, and reading Nadi Leaves and all of that. So I'm very, very grateful for that experience, and being introduced to certain herbs, and turmeric being one of them, and many other things that he has in his offering. And anybody wanting to look at his health program, do it, and do it with full commitment, and you will get success. You will have success if you're committed. and a real expansion of knowledge in the Vedic tradition as a starting point. And now with my current guru, Sri Nityananda Paramashivam, I'm getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the understanding of the whole science of health and manifestation. It's going to a whole other level, so this tradition is so valuable for bringing power back to the individual that I really believe it's going to be the way, with the way we are leading our lives. It's not empowering, and we want to reclaim our power if we can. A lot of us, anyhow, are on the spiritual path to seek just that, to get power back and to get some clarity and understanding and depth of understanding as to how we are made up inside out, and how can we begin to understand ourselves. So Vedic culture is all about you being introduced to yourself, because we are so unaware of how we are composed that we are furthest away from ourselves. We don't know our own selves. And when we begin to know our own selves, that's when we begin to empower ourselves. We think, aha, that's how we're made up. This is what I can do to change this aspect of my life. This is how I manifest what I want. This is how I create my inner space and my, outer space. Now, we're going to be bringing that exact topic on board next week. We're going to be talking about space and environment. And it's going to be another expansion. I think you will see space and environment in a completely different way when you look at it from the lens of the Vedic tradition. So I'm looking forward to putting that module together for you. And this is, I'm having to, as I said at the beginning, we lost the recording, so I've had to do it. And of course, it won't be exactly as I did it during the live session, but at least I've made the effort to record it so that you've got the complete health, um, module, if you like, that you can refer to. And so I won't be able to emulate the question and answers in this particular recording. And there were some good questions asked last time, which I've forgotten, and I won't be able to replicate it here. But enough to say, health is um, a big topic in the Vedic tradition, huge revival going on. And please become interested in, power spots, the deities of choice, doing panchakarma, finding an Ayurvedic doctor, trying that first, empowering yourself, detoxification protocols, food ingesting protocols like Nirahara Samyama of my guru, Sri Nityananda Paramashivam. There's plenty of free material available on the YouTube and elsewhere on the web that you can refer to bring yourself to full health, where you are simply rejoicing in being alive and active and totally rejoicing every minute of the day, because there's nothing worse than pains and aches and disease. There's nothing nothing feels like worthy of doing when your body is in that state. So I wish you all a very, very good evening or good day wherever you are. And more than that, I wish you full health at all times, physically, physiologically, psychologically, and also consciously. So, with that, I will end this re recording of the second section of health, and I will see you on Tuesday for the space and environment module. Thank you.